Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing barriers of communication. I provide audio and email coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details, www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing barriers of communication. Communication is key to building and maintaining romantic and business relationships. In today's podcast, I'll be speaking of 3 barriers which prevent effective communication. So let's get straight into this. And number 1 is fear of rejection. So this would be best described as if you was to stumble over your words and less likely to showcase your thoughts during a conversation. So if you have a fear of rejection, you are not going to be as likely to want to really present yourself as the unique individual that you are. You're less likely to want to showcase your thoughts and your opinions because you're really worried that you are going to be frowned upon and rejected. Now, of course, you need to really consider the situation that you're in, and you need to use common sense. Certain situations require a certain level of communication style. However, you also need to be that individual. You also need to showcase to somebody, whether romantically or business related, that you are an individual and you will stand out from the crowd. So it's vitally important that you don't let a fear of rejection eliminate what makes you unique. Additionally, as I said at the start of this point, you are more likely to stumble over your words and be less confident in the way you present yourself and communicate effectively if you are feeling fear. If you're feeling nervous, you're going to be very likely to make additional mistakes that you wouldn't have done if you was feeling more confident. So try your hardest to get into that mode of thought where you are not feeling the fear. You're going to be feeling nervous. That's very natural, but don't let it turn into fear. Don't let it ruin a potential connection, romantically, business related, whatever the situation. Don't let fear of rejection cause you to create a self-fulfilling prophecy and be rejected by the person due to your actual fear. So now let's move into point number 2, and that is inability to listen. So people feel less interested in someone they don't believe listens to them. If you are having a conversation with somebody and when it gets to their part of a conversation, you're not really thinking about what they're saying, you're not really listening, you're not really paying attention. And then when you get to your part of speaking, all of a sudden you are asking them a question about something they have just said, or you are just not really listening to their point of view and just kind of railroading over them, then they're going to find it very unappealing. It doesn't matter whether this is a romantic connection you're trying to build. Maybe you're speaking to somebody for the first time that you really find attractive and you want to build a connection with. Maybe you're trying to get your ex back and you and your ex are speaking for the first time in a long time. Or maybe this is business related. Maybe it's nothing to do with romance and you are trying to do some type of work situation involving communication. Whatever the situation, if you are not listening to the other person, if you are not taking on board their point of view and then listening, giving your point of view back and really involving their thoughts in the process, then you are going to be somebody that is not respected by the person you are speaking with. If you do not listen to somebody you are communicating with, then this is certainly a barrier of communication that is going to prove costly to you. But if somebody doesn't think you are listening, then they are not going to give you the respect, they are not going to give you the interest back, and they are likely to not want to speak with you again. So if this is romantically, then that is obviously going to be something which is going to be very painful. If you find them very interesting in a romantic sense, maybe, as I said, they could be an ex. Maybe they are somebody brand new into your life. If all of a sudden you lose out on that connection purely because you have not listened to them, that is very, very costly to you. You know, if you lose out on a potential fantastic romantic connection purely because you couldn't be bothered to listen to them, purely because as they were speaking, you was daydreaming, or maybe if it was on the phone, you was reading something, you know, you're just not paying attention. That is going to really cost you in the long term. And you are going to be somebody who has missed out on a possible fantastic connection due to an inability to listen. If this is business related, imagine a situation where you have lost out on a new job, or maybe if you're running your own business, you have lost out on a potential new contract just because you couldn't be bothered to listen to a potential business client. There is no excuse really. When you're having a conversation with somebody, please give them your full attention and listen to them. So let's now move into point number 3 and the final part of today's podcast, into barriers of communication. And that is number 3, a lack of knowledge. You need to consider the topics that might be brought up in your communication and do some research into them before you communicate. So depending on who you are communicating with will obviously depend on the type of necessary research, and it's going to be vastly different. If this is romantically based, it could be something along the lines of understanding which restaurants are open. You know, it could be about understanding what the cinema is showing. You know, you might be wanting to do some research into possible dates you could be going on in the near future. You could be doing some research into a topic that you know the person you are going to be speaking with is interested in. Imagine a situation where you've been online dating and you know a few things about this other person, and because of that you have a real good vibe on certain different discussion points where you need to be doing research into them, because the actuality of the situation is that you might easily during this communication be asked a question on one of these topics that you know that your date is interested in, and it would do you no favors at all if you know absolutely nothing on the subject, even if you don't have a big interest in it. If you knew from their online dating profile that they was very interested in a certain topic, just do a bit of research into it, become a bit more knowledgeable. If this was an ex that you are meeting for the first time in a while, you already know the things that they like. Just top up your knowledge on those things. If you know that they like a certain band, for instance, you know, just do a bit of research into the music they've recently released. It could be anything at all on this, but if it's romantically based, it's probably going to be more kind of pop culture related or date related. Just do your research. Make sure you're a knowledgeable person going into this communication, because if you're not, you are going to be found wanting and you're going to miss out on an opportunity. If this is business related, then it's very, very important that you do the research into the business discussion that you will probably be having. If this is a potential client, do research into that client. If you are trying to apply for a new job, do research into the job. Just do some research into whatever you think could be brought up during the communication, because if you don't, you will be found out. There is nothing more painful than losing out on a good thing because you couldn't be bothered to put in the time and effort beforehand. So, I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I hope it's given you food for thought about what you can do to make sure that the barriers of communication don't become a problem for you. Because communication in all areas of life is quite possibly the most important element of connection. So always remember, do your research, don't be fearful, and listen to the person you are speaking with, and you will give yourself the best possible chance of coming out of the other side of this communication in a better position than before you went into it. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, If you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent Bo, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent Bo got you. Finding love ain't no problem, yeah. DateMe.tips, check it out now.